just melting off, but it's coming off evenly. I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling more confident, and I'm enjoying it. So it doesn't matter that the weight may not come off immediately. It's everything's working.
Right. And I figured, and he has been advertising that it's a free 6-week program, and I'm like, why not? And he's doing it for free for 6 weeks.
Can't beat that.
To spread the word of mouth and all of that. So I'll give it its due course and see what happens. And he's hoping that these people stay and sign up for other things. So, or spread the word in town.
That's so cool. You got to let me know how that works.
Yes, I will. I
love that idea.
So,
and it's a social thing too. You get out and you meet other people who are interested in the same thing too. And, that community involvement and the accountability of, hey, how come you didn't show up last week?
Right. And you're like, yeah, exactly. And,
hey, Anita's always there right as we go live. I love that.
Yes.
Well, I guess we should, get down to it. Welcome, everybody. Another episode of Spilling Ink. We are the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet authors and professionals in the publishing industry. And as promised, we have a new author to introduce you to this week. Melissa, you've got a new a debut book.
I do.
Awesome.
This is awesome. We want to hear all about you. We want to hear all about your book. Anything you want to tell us?
All right. So debut novel. I've wanted to be a writer my whole life. Was like scribbling in the margins of all of my notebooks in school, which I wasn't like the greatest student, but it did make me a good writer because I was practicing all the time. And the book that's coming out, The Last Traveler, I actually started when I was 16 and kind of lost track of, then picked back up as an adult, finished, and here we are. I don't write full time yet. That's like the goal. But currently I work actually in education publishing. I work for Houghton Mifflin, which has published probably every textbook ever. But they like work more in education tech now, as all of those companies do. So I work in product marketing for them. To tiny little children that are running around at home.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah,
job in and of itself. And I'm graduating with my master's in December. So
wow,
arguably maybe too much going on, but
you sound like me in my younger years, although I didn't go for a master's.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I was like on the fence about I had finished my book. I was like, do I want to do publishing? I don't know. I was submitting it and not getting anywhere and feeling very discouraged. So I was like, I'm going to start my master's. And then the book, I got an offer from this, boutique indie publisher, and we're kind of picking it up from there. So it's all happening at the same time. Grad school, publishing a book, being a mom, and having a job, and it's yeah.
That's like the epitome of the phrase, when it rains it pours. Like everything is just, it's happening.
Yes, it was all like, it's all very exciting things happening, but it's still a lot of things. So
yeah, I can imagine. So tell us what the book is, and without spoilers, obviously,
right,
what we can expect.
Cool. So The Last Traveler is about a 16-year-old girl named Pax who lives in a very wealthy suburb and kind of grew up on the outside of things. She's not very popular. She's very weird. She makes art out of trash. And then when she turns 16, she begins having these very kind of violent, or dreams that end very violently all throughout like in math class, in the car, where she is like, wakes up screaming. So people are like taunting her, and this is her life. But then one night at a party, she falls asleep and she disappears completely and gets sucked into this world from her dreams, and encounters a rebel group of people who are fighting against their very controlling government in this world in her dreams. And they kind of offer her this spot to help make a difference, and think that they can think I might have skipped a very important detail, and that her mother went missing when she was 4. Did I say that? I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
You can see that I'm not very well practiced with giving this plot yet, but we're working on it. So her mother went missing, and they think that she might be there in this world. So she has to decide if she's going to join this rebel group or if she's going to go back to her life on Earth. And that's the story.
Oh, neat.
who doesn't want to escape into a dream world, even if it is in turmoil?
If it's not my problem, somebody else's problems, that feels a lot easier.
Totally.
That sounds super, super cool. I love the concept.
Yeah, it was, I like dealing with these kind of sci-fi meets fantasy elements where it could be a superpower, it could be a genetic ability, but we're like exploring things that, are just not common in the real world. It's a lot of fun. Those stories are fun to tell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're on the same wavelength.
Yes, we are. It's Saturday night. Why not?
So inspiration often comes from reality. Did you take any bits and pieces of your life to help kind of spark the story or spark some events in the story?
Very minuscule bits and pieces of the actual story are from my life. I think whenever I was 16 and writing this story, the main character was probably a self-insert, but then like revisiting it as an adult, she's not anymore. She's kind of her own person and character. And I would say a lot of the underlying plot devices were inspired by things that I was processing in life whenever I wrote it. So I picked it back up in 2021, and like the world was on fire. And, like, still is, So, and at the time, so I'm a former classroom teacher. At the time, I was teaching middle school 7th graders, and watching 7th graders process like all of the conflicts, political environment, all of these things, they feel helpless. They feel like, what do I do? There are people making decisions for me that are not good decisions for me. And I don't have power in that. And so I wanted to write a story that would make, essentially like I wrote a story for high school me, but also for the students that I was teaching that would maybe make them feel less alone by exploring those concepts in a different world.
Okay.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Again, super cool concept too. I love the idea of it. So
thank you.
Let's step back a little bit, because I think as you were giving us your introduction, you said you tried to go the traditional route.
Yes.
And mixed results there.
Yeah.
How long did you try that way before you kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to go the indie route? I think indie is for me.
Probably about, I think it was like almost 7 months. But I was like putting out tons of, I was soliciting like every agent you could possibly imagine.
I was going to say, did you grab an agent or was the agent working for you?
And like had this insane running list. And, but as I was doing that, I was also like trying to educate myself on the publishing world, and was on TikTok at the time and like learning about all of these different avenues that you can utilize for publishing outside of traditional publishing. And I realized I'm kind of just by nature anti-establishment. And so I was realizing like, oh, do I actually want like
to give up control?
No.
I don't want that. And it's kind of against what I stand for to like sign over something that's so incredibly important to me to a massive corporation that sees me as like numbers in a budget, so that's when I kind of switched course. And I'm like with it's an indie publisher.
Yeah.
So
but it's
still, there's still like some perks, but it's very much still in the indie route as well. And it's been, I've been incredibly happy with my experience so far.
Yeah, I've noticed the trend has been more towards hybrid publishing lately. In the
Mhm.
last, I want to say like 5 years, people are wanting to take more control of their books,
Yeah.
and they're less inclined to go after, the big five or big four. I don't remember how many there are now.
I think I think it's still 5 because
Yeah,
Is it
that
five?
actually just happened this week, didn't it?
yes, yep, they said no.
Yeah, again, it keeps consolidating down. So it's
Right.
like,
Mhm.
It's still a monopoly, even though
Yes.
there's 5 of them. Like,
exactly.
that is clearly too much power.
But
Mhm.
the reality is, you're right. It is signing over your work and,
Yeah.
just hoping that they will do right by it, and that
Right.
even when they do publish it, that they will do some of the marketing for you, because a lot of being an indie author is just saying, I'm going to do it myself so that I can, reap
Right.
the rewards of it,
Well,
and putting on all the hats. And when you sign your book over to a publisher, you expect them to do a lot of this stuff. And the reality is often
They don't.
they don't.
You still have to do a lot
Yeah.
of the marketing unless you're a big name.
And you don't have
And
control
even
over
then,
covers and things that,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff you lose that
Yeah.
control over, and you lose the ability to have a say in for as
Mhm.
long as the contract is valid, however many
Yeah.
years you're signing it over to them for.
absolutely. And I think that was like a huge motivator for me, was learning like, oh, I don't get to decide. For one, you don't have the rights over your own story. Like, somebody
Mhm.
else has that.
Yes.
You can decide your book covers. Like, your editor gets a lot more say in the direction and trajectory of your story.
Yep.
Maybe they should with that. And that just didn't sit well with me, because I mean, with every writer, like, your story is your baby. And so you don't
Mhm.
want someone taking your baby and turning it into something that you didn't intend for. So,
Right.
And it's not a knock on publishing, that they do those things. There's a reason that they do what they do. But for those of us who like a little more control and like to have a little bit more of a hand in raising our baby,
Mhm.
indie publishing provides that. And the hybrid model of either going with an indie publisher who will have more of a dialogue with you and be able to work closer hand in hand with you, or doing it 100% yourself, is something a lot of people are leaning towards these days.
definitely. I think it, and social media, I think, has a huge hand in that, because
Mhm.
there's a lot more authors who actually have a voice on social media. And so
Yes.
you're hearing the real stories. You're hearing, not just, like, whenever I was in high school, I thought that being an author was like, cool, you get published and then you're famous. And then
Yeah.
a movie, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
But, like, as a kid, I'm thinking, that's how it is. You're famous, and they're like flying you out to all these places to be on Good Morning America or whatever.
Okay, I got a story for you. This actually happened this week too, and this just is another testament to how blunt my youngest daughter is.
Mhm.
So we were doing the Myler walk before school, and she was like, "Oh, I told my friends in my class that my mom's an author," and they're like, "Oh, is your mom famous?" Point blank, completely deadpan. So he's like, "No, I said she's an author. I didn't say famous."
That's so funny.
Like, thanks, appreciate that.
It's wild, because, like, that's still, for a lot of people, that is the mentality. Like, oh, you're published, you're gonna be famous. Like, oh, I don't think that you know.
I will live on in perpetuity on Amazon, but that does not make me famous, because I'm in perpetuity with millions of others. Just like you walking the street.
I'm
But
famous in my own way, damn it.
It is fun to meet a fan, though, because
Wow.
they see you as something more, until you sit down and have dinner with them and, are just shooting the shit with them. That's when they realize, oh, they're just like me.
Oh, you're perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The awe goes away.
Right.
But it's humbling to have that. And I've had people go, "Can I take a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, why would you want this ugly face? But okay.
And then they post it on their social media, and everyone's like, they're very excited, and everybody else is like, "Who's that?" Like,
Exactly. Bingo.
yeah, I haven't had any like my book's not out, so I don't have any fan encounters. But I did a book festival recently here in Louisiana, and a mom was going around like collecting like our autographs for her kid, and I was like, I mean, I'll sign it, but you're gonna hand them this little bookmark, and they're gonna be like, "Who's that?"
Nobody can read my signature. So it's like this line.
Yeah.
But I still sign the books.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's humbling because you don't. Some people call it the imposter syndrome that people have said, but really, we're just creative people. It doesn't make us on a higher tier.
Definitely.
So those that feel like they're on a higher tier have other issues.
Right. Although it is harder, I think, today to be an author because of social media and all of its forms than it was in maybe previous incarnations, because we have to have a presence. We can't ignore social media. We have to be out there, pounding the digital pavement to get our books out there.
So, and it is so incredibly, I think like marketing has shifted so much because of social media, but and the most popular social media for authors to be on right now is TikTok. If you're on TikTok, like that's you're running the gamble every time, hoping that you'll get like your video will go viral, so people will like purchase your books. But with that is like this obsessive thing where you're on TikTok all the time, you're posting every day, and you are inundated with other people's opinions of you.
Yeah.
It is. I love it. I've been on TikTok for almost a full year now since I got my started my publishing. Basically, I wanted to document it. It's a lot of fun. It's great to help build community, but it is also like it can be incredibly soul sucking, and that's the part that's the part that people don't tell you is like I don't know that our brains were not intended to absorb this many opinions about ourselves or like, be connected to this many people at one time. I do not know what effects it's going to have on me long term. We'll see,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not only the time sink that it is, but the emotional toll of what are people going to say?
Oh, and they'll say it because they're behind a computer and they don't care, so they will say whatever.
The time suck of creating a TikTok video, I haven't done it. I've done the quick things. I've done a couple things, and I was trying it out, and I'm like, no. And frankly, I really don't care what people think of me at this point.
I love that.
I've gotten to the age where I'm like the honey badger. Okay. Katie knows what I'm talking about, but yes, it's just like, if you like me, great. If you don't, move on. Find something you like. More power to you. But it's just like I've gotten to the point where I'm just like,
I aspire to get there. I'm not quite there yet. I don't really. They say don't read your reviews.
You haven't hit the coveted 55.
No, I'm not hit that yet.
The 55, and you don't care anymore. I don't know. Yeah, it's just me.
No, I think it's right, because the older we get, I think the less care we have for the bullshit. We do care about things, but the bullshit's just like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I found
even go online on the author journey. I remember, fresh-faced, brand new author in 2009, and I was obsessive about my reviews. Good, bad, no matter what. I was like, oh my God, what are they saying? And I cared so much then. And not that I don't care about reviews now, but it's been maybe 6 months since I've checked on my reviews just to see if I have any extras, any ones that I might want to highlight, or any 1 stars that I want to laugh at, because some of those 1 stars are hilarious.
I'm pretty funny. Yes.
Yep.
I got other product stuff on one. You're mature for your age. Good for you.
Good job, Rebekah.
That's awesome. I hope to get there. Like my book hasn't come out yet, so I think I lose sleep over reviews and like what people are going to think of it. But
So, a friend of mine has the best way to deal with reviews, and she says, whenever you get a bad review, one, if you don't read it, but if you have to read it, fine, read it. But then immediately go find your favorite book by your favorite author and go read their 1-star reviews. Because guaranteed there's going to be some, because everybody's got an opinion.
Right.
Yes.
And that will help mitigate the damage of you reading that 1-star for yourself.
I'll have to keep that in mind once the reviews start coming in.
Yes.
Because...
Yes. The glowing ones will lift you up.
Yep.
And the 1 stars in the beginning will feel like somebody took an arrow to your heart.
That's fear. Yeah.
but you just pull it out and move on.
Keep going, 'cause what else are you gonna do? Like,
it's like okay, that is somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
It wasn't for them, and no matter how snarky and whatever, it's yeah. See, everybody agrees. Once you get to this age, it's like, thank you, Rebekah.
Yep. We went back to like early 2000s YouTube quotes.
Yeah, exactly. but it's I have no idea where I was going. That honey badger thing just squirrel. But yeah, you just have to let it roll off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And if there's anything constructive in it, take a look at it. And if it doesn't feel right, ignore it. If it's like, oh yeah, maybe I missed that, then you have a chance to tweak it.
Right.
Yeah, because not all criticism, even when it's given to you constructively, is going to be helpful. I have a teenage series where they were complaining that they acted too much like a teenager. I'm like, well,
they're teenagers, duh.
What they're supposed to do. They're not mature adults. They're kids.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. What gets me is ratings, no review, just a rating.
1 star, no explanation.
And I just think that's just a hater. Hater's gonna hate at that point. If they have an opinion, they're gonna state it. Otherwise, it's so easy to click a button.
Right, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, they didn't like it. Such is life.
But again, you gotta get to the point where you don't pay as much attention to them. They don't affect you in a very negative way, because that can really, can make you decide to take up scorpion petting. We've talked about that before. Yeah. We don't want that.
No, we don't want that. And as writers, we really do have to have thick skin.
Yeah.
I love the friends of mine that are writers, but some of them are needy, very needy, that I've seen. And they're like, don't come to me to say, you would have done it this way or that way. It's like, why not? I'm like, well, maybe that's because I'm so.
You gotta know who you're talking to, because with you, I would expect you to come back and say, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed, because you're good with the analytical side of things. And if I'm having you read something, I know I'm going to get that honest analytical opinion from you that I need.
Right. Exactly. Same with Rebekah. She's one of my beta readers, and she catches me on things. She caught me on the last beta read, and I was like, oh yeah, I did do that in the last book. Oh shit, I forgot. And it was a big thing. So it's like, okay, I have to change that.
This is why we have the beta readers.
Yes, exactly. To tell you when you've completely gone right hook on your rules of your world.
Right.
So You know,
Yeah, and
but
Rebekah's awesome. Oh my God, she
yes,
catches things in quick too.
yes,
Oh
she is
man.
very, very quick. You know, you're always doing your thing now. You can't beta read.
I know.
But that's all right. You're ghostwriting, so.
She only gently laughs at you.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay to fall off your chair laughing at me. I'm good with that. Even if you're laughing at me, not with me. As long as you're laughing.
That's a good beta reader though. You've got a good, relationship. There's trust. You understand, that they've got certain strengths that are going to help your story. You develop that. You know that the criticism that you're going to get is going to be constructive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
In the beginning, it's hard to tell what criticism is really constructive and what is just criticism, because some people are just giving an opinion.
Right. And I had some hard, writers criticizing my work before I even became, real serious and published. And they tore me to pieces. and I love them for it. They, I'd go and I'd cry. Me, yes, I cry. And then I'd be like, well, wait a minute, step back. And this is where the analytical mind comes in. Step back. What are they trying to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned. And that's the whole purpose of somebody who's giving you criticism with the right heart in it,
Still hard to take in the beginning, though.
Oh yeah,
so hard.
It sucks.
But like you said, you got to develop that thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, how was your experience getting through that beta phase?
I think it kind of ebbs and flows. Like, there's the initial, I'm extremely nervous that someone is reading this story that I, in the beginning, wrote for myself. And then, the criticism, some of it's criticism, but the feedback would come back. And I would, sometimes I would get really angry because I felt like someone was misunderstanding me. Whenever I would get feedback that I didn't agree with, or I would get incredibly confused because conflicting feedback is very much a thing. Whenever you've got multiple editors, multiple beta readers, whatever. So that was something I was not prepared for, actually, was like, what's the right direction then? I'm so new to this. Is this actually something I need to be taking seriously? Or is this just this person's opinion? And a lot of times, it's so open to interpretation still.
Right.
Obviously some hard
unless,
facts,
unless you're actually on the phone with them and talking it out. Sometimes things coming over emails and texts and all of that can be misunderstood. I had an author who used to call me when he'd get my edits and we'd talk through them. He called me from Texas. It was lovely Texas accent. And go through them. And there were things we didn't see eye to eye on, but we talked through it. And some he relented, some I relented,
Definitely.
That's the whole editor, writer, relationship
you're doing together, it's giving and taking, and you let them lead and give you that feedback, and then you take what works and throw out what doesn't work. But
exactly,
that was like a very unexpected part of the process for me. Was I think whenever I was going into it and thinking of like editors and beta readers, I was like, oh, they're going to give me the answers. Like, if there's a problem, they're just going to give me the answer, and I'll fix it, and then that'll be the thing. But like, they don't have the answers. They're just reading and interpreting your book, and you have to still be the ultimate decider there. And so that was quite a journey for me. And I think that, still being new and like obviously planning to have subsequent books, I will still be learning how to do that and take what works and leave what doesn't. But it's definitely been interesting.
So what's been the scariest thing you've had to get over in this whole writing journey?
Really, like, other I'm still in it now, is like the fear of other people reading my book. Like that, you know, you get into it and you're like so excited that it's been getting published, and then it hits you halfway through, like, oh shit, people are actually going to read this. Like, that's so terrifying for me still. Like the imposter syndrome part of it is like, who am I to be telling this story? Am I actually like a garbage writer and just nobody has told me yet? You know, because you're not going to know until it's put out there. And so some of it is like, I have to have a level of trust in myself that like, I haven't just been gaslighting myself into believing I can do this. But the other part of it is like, you know, learning to adapt and adjust as you go. And as the feedback comes in, and like you were saying, get that thick skin, I'm working on it. But that's definitely been the scariest part, is like putting it in front of real people and getting real interpretations and opinions. And
Is this the first of this kind of show you've done?
Yes.
Okay, you're doing very well. I was just going to ask about that.
Should we scare her more by telling her that you'll never get over that?
No,
How many books you put out?
It's perpetual. It's
like, even to this day, the scariest words you can tell me are, "So I read your book."
My stomach just dropped.
I was on, my nephew read one of my books, and I was on he's got a Twitch podcast that they started up during the pandemic and been doing every week. And he and his partner had me on, or he and his friend, and he didn't realize how much goes into writing. They want me back, but you know, it was really funny to be interviewed by my nephew. We played video games at his house when they were younger and stuff. So
good brother to read and critique is a fast way to grow thick skin.
Siblings, siblings will be honest. Don't have your mom or dad read it, because they're just gonna placate you.
My mom actually, my younger brother was the first person to read my book. He was so wonderful about it too, because he definitely gave me like honest opinions. But we also have like a very good relationship, and he hyped me up through the whole thing. I don't know that I would have published it if he didn't read it first, because like he was like, you should definitely publish it. This is good. So it was like, it was a very sweet, you know, like I'm glad that it went through him first, because it gave me the confidence that I needed to actually put it out there.
Oh, see, that's good.
That's good. That's very good.
I got some criticism from like other people, you know, or the constructive criticism, the harsh ones.
I started out in an online critiquing group, and it was almost anonymous. So you would critique stories you chose to critique, and if your story was available to critique, people who had points could critique yours. So it was kind of a very anonymous system, which meant you got a lot of feedback. You had to weed out the conflicting stuff, but it was blunt. And that's kind of where I came from. I got the blunt, anonymous, and it worked.
I knew where all mine were coming from. That's the thing. And, you know, some of them were traditionally published authors in this group that, you know, were pretty harsh.
That's, you know, I haven't done a full like writer's critique circle probably since college, but I don't know that I could do it online like that, because even when you're face to face with these other people who also are writers and come in with their own experiences, man, they can be like so ruthless. But also, you know, with college, you've got the people who are, it's 20-year-olds who are like, I have the answers. My professor just told me what the best way to write is.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you, academic writers are a total different breed.
Yes, they are.
I can always tell the academic turned fiction author, because they try so hard to sound authorly.
Yeah.
Not authentic, authorly.
Use all those collegiate words.
You know, they had a thesaurus next to them while they were writing.
Yes.
Yes.
that was unfortunately the way my aunt's book was when I read it. I was like, it was so pretentiously awful.
Oh no.
I only read 10 pages and I called my dad. I said, I can't do this.
Oh,
I can't do this, Dad.
God.
and she didn't like my critique.
gee, I wonder why.
Well, yeah.
The pretentiousness always gets me because to me, I feel like books should be accessible.
Yeah.
You know, like, and this has actually been a dialogue or like a discourse within like the TikTok writer community lately is this accessibility of writing, because there's this whole, they're purists who are like, everything that is newly published is trash and only the classics and only books that mirror the classics are good books. But like, that's so subjective and rooted in elitism, right?
Right. Exactly.
You forget that once upon a time, these books that are now the classics, or you know what we study and model our writing after, were once like popular books in their time,
Right.
and we're not
In their time, yeah.
And right, like Shakespeare's plays were not classy plays back in the day.
No,
You know?
they weren't.
It was like the epitome of like a trashy stage play. There's all kinds of weird sex jokes in it and stuff. Like, so we have to keep that in mind. And I don't know. That's one of those things that really gets to me. Is like you're yes, exactly.
You're absolutely right. And the elitism forgets that what a lot of people are doing is trying to make things sound legitimate, sound accurate, make these characters feel and read as real as possible on the page. And that's not perfectionism. Sorry.
No, and you know, a lot of the classics are fairly dry.
Yeah.
You know, and fairly, you know, they use a lot of unneeded words. I'm not going to try to say superfluous.
Superfluous?
Yeah. There you go. We can try to say that 5 times in a row.
Speaking of grammar, to address the comment by Tina, as language develops, the grammar rules have to change. So a lot of the what we call grammar Nazis are going off of older rules that have not either updated or the updates have not been accepted quite yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So we run into a lot of issues, and there's a lot of, especially in English, there's a lot of conflicting things, and you have to pick and choose and just remain consistent with the rule that you pick and choose.
Right.
To be
And
correct.
regional things. There's regional language, regional terms. I mean, you know, I use the word shag.
I love that.
in my books, and my editor came back and said, "This is normally an England term. Did you mean it, or did you want to use something else?" I said, "Yes, I meant it. I like it." It's like I like to mix it up a little bit, you know. and most people know the reference to it, so it's
and if they don't, they can look it up and it'll be a really fun learning experience for them.
exactly
Exactly, Regine. Yes.
Exactly, as you learn in high school. And the thing is, like, you learn the rules so you can break the rules in the right way. Like that's just how it goes. And language is evolving as society evolves. So it's so strange to me that we're setting up these prescribed expectations for how something should sound or how we should be writing things when we write to mirror like what's happening around us and what's happening in society, and everything is always evolving. So our writing would evolve too, you know?
Yeah, and the elitist divide between indie versus traditional is definitely fading. Back when Jane, you and I started, there was still the Scarlet Letter. You know, it was very much, oh, you're indie. And now, you know, as we're going more towards hybrid as a just a norm, people are accepting that, you know,
Right.
indie has a lot of merits, and there's a lot of good authors that are now being able to find their voice and share their voice with the world that couldn't have done it before, because traditional publishing is, like you said, a numbers game. It's on spreadsheet. Is this going to fit into the budget? Is it going to be profitable?
It's a corporation that's running out of budget that has to be profitable.
It still merits, you know, but like so does indie, and I'm really glad that it's being acknowledged. Like I saw something maybe earlier this week that Colleen Hoover has sold more copies of her most recent book than like the Bible this past year.
Wow.
It was,
oh my gosh,
like mind blowing. That's an indie author who is selling more copies of her book than the Bible. So the lines between like, oh, indie and traditional have definitely crossed over, because there's no argument that can be made for like, you're going to be more successful if you go the traditional route, because it's not necessarily true anymore.
No, and the advances are, you know, you have to earn them out. And it's like, I
good luck
like
getting one of those.
I know, exactly.
Well, and honestly, it's only the elitists that look for who the publisher is. Most people look at the cover art, they read the back cover, and that's what they choose to base their buy decision off of. Is does it sound like something?
Look at the first page. Yeah, they look at the first page. If they're at a physical store, it'd be nice to have our books in a physical store, but you know, that's probably not so far off as we think. But yeah.
And with a lot of people buying online these days, the physical store has less prominence than it used to.
Exactly, unless it has a Starbucks in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, my wrist is bothering me. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time where I looked at a book and went, "Oh, it's published by this company. I'm not gonna buy it."
I don't know if I even look at who publishes it.
Most
I look at the pretty cover.
Don't is the thing. It's like, if you're a reader, you're going to read what you like.
Yeah, and I'm a cover whore, so I look at the cover.
Love the cover.
Yes, I mean, it's the whole reason why I'm in the book thing.
Yeah, the book that you showed us, that's what I was like, I'm going to add that to my list. It's got a gorgeous cover. The designs on the pages. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is a special edition through the books box I'm in, Arcane Society book box. So, and it has a sign up list that's a mile long. So, yeah.
Rebekah says we don't notice the pretty spy medallion. Honestly, no. Half the time I don't.
No, I don't.
It is the cover art. I've walked by a bookstore, saw a cover that I liked, and went, "Oh, I'm going to buy that," just because I saw a cover I liked.
Exactly. That's how I picked up Pestilence. I saw it online. It still is my favorite cover that I've ever seen ever. And I normally don't one click.
I think we
just broke
for the Rebekah's heart. Sorry, Rebekah.
Oh. Sorry, sweetheart. No.
Covers are, I mean, like, I don't know anyone that doesn't decide on if they're going to buy I mean, there's obviously other factors, but it's got a good cover. And that was a big deal for me whenever I was going through that process. We actually, I felt really bad for that part, because the cover artist that was working with me came back with these really lovely covers, but it was like, I was not feeling it. And so she came back and had this beautiful typographic design. And I was like, that's the one. If I saw that in a bookstore, I would pick it up.
So, is that the one that we have?
Yes, with the sun and the gold. So that's final draft. The first ones were much more, first draft was much more like sci-fi-y.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is cool, you know, but I wanted the typographic covers. I just think they're so pretty. So
yeah.
And again, going back to what you get with traditional versus indie, you know, even an indie publisher, you have more of a dialogue, you have more of a hand in the creation of your product. Whereas if you were with a traditional Big Five publisher, they would say, "This is your cover design." not what you think this is.
And that's like, it was one of those moments where I was so thankful that I made the decision that I did, because if they had come to me with those initial covers, they're fine, but I would have been so upset because I felt like my power would have been taken away. But being able to go to my publisher and the designer and be like, hey, this isn't what I'm feeling. Can we try something else? That was like, I made the right choice, because it feels like my book when I'm looking at it. And I think if it had those other covers, it wouldn't feel that way to me. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a choice.
Now, to contrast that, and we have a previous episode where we discussed some of our cover mistakes. Sometimes having that hand in designing your own cover is not always the best choice.
No, it's not.
And I will make sure to link that episode in the show notes when I do those later today. But sometimes we have lofty ideas and we see something and we think it's wonderful and it doesn't quite hit the market.
Yeah, it's not on genre. I mean, you know, that's my eye has gotten much more on genre now. Because I used to be sort of, you know, I don't know, thought I knew what I liked, but it wasn't on genre.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a couple series where I've redone the covers more than once.
Yep. Same here.
And there are some that just need updates over time, because when they were originally published, this was hot, and now you know the market's changed, and now we have to change.
They're based on trends. It's like it's very much a trend centered design. You know what you're doing there. So
yeah, I haven't changed my FBI books since I got those newer covers from Cora, because they're more on
they're evergreen. They seem to
they're more on target with the FBI, you know, police procedural, you know, type thing, you know, along with the paranormal. It doesn't really take a lot of the paranormal into the cover, but it shows it's an officer of some kind going after something. So, you know, the others, my game series, I think I've changed 3 times. I've got to find something right for that, because it's more of a genre blend, which is
yeah, and that's hard when it's a blended genre to find what's going to spark both sides.
Yeah, it's not
to do that with my asset series. As much as I love the covers, I do wonder if it's not hitting the market the way it should, even though I'm absolutely in love with them. But again, that's what you take on being an indie. You project managing, you're going to make the decision, good or bad, but you have the ability to make that decision. So
there's some trial and error. Who knows? Maybe in a year I'll realize that it is not hitting where it's supposed to be hitting with the book covers that I have, and I'll have to change them, but we'll see.
But you have the ability to do that.
I do. Yes, you do. You do. And your publishing company, you know, even though it's an indie one, may come back and say, okay, you know, if it's not hitting the market, they might need to do some market research with you and say, okay, maybe the cover, maybe the wording and things like that. So,
and again, with an indie publisher, you have the ability to dialogue with them.
Yes.
Because they want to sell the book just as much as you do. So if there's ways that you can make the book better selling, they're going to be more open to that and working with you on that.
Right. They have a vested stake in it, which is, and that was also a huge thing for me, was like, I feel like with hybrid, a lot of people assume that there's very little care that goes into it, that like you sign on with this company and they like just throw your book into a Epson printer and then like dump it off the back of a truck or something. That's what hybrid is, but it's so not like that. It is you know, they are small indie publishers, so they have a vested interest in putting out great work. It would be a terrible business model to just push out shitty books and hope that like money. So and like I've seen that reflected in my experiences. Like the publishers invested, the editors have been excellent, and everyone is working with me to like kind of subscribe to what my vision is for the book, but they're putting in their own thought and their own time as well.
Right.
You know, we hope
absolutely.
That's what's attracting people towards this model of publishing versus the old model of just going after the big 5 is you want to have that dialogue. You want to have that relationship with the company that's putting your book out, or you want to handle it yourself so that you can make it exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
And the books that come out of small and indie press are standing up next to the traditionally published books and holding their own.
Right.
You know, there's the few outliers that are not so great, but for the majority of them over the last 10 or so years, the step up in quality has been noticeable, and they are just as good. And again, like we said, it's getting that voice that may not have been able to get out there before out into the open.
Yeah, I think it's empowering a lot of writers, you know, because like one of the biggest complaints in, at least with traditional publishing in the past decade or so, has been like lack of diversity. You're not seeing, you know, non-white, cis, straight authors getting the same amount of publicity or visibility in publishing that you do otherwise. You know, and with indie, it's giving those people a chance and a voice and like an equal stake in publishing where they haven't had that before. And I think that's what I love about it the most is the people who would not have been able to get published otherwise are now able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, the market's constantly changing, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, yet Hollywood hasn't. I mean, there, with all of the pick of all of these books that are out there by indie authors, Hollywood is still turning out the old, you know, sequels and redoing old movies. It's like, stop. There's so much good stuff out there. Pick something new and exciting and daring.
That's the problem with the big companies, though.
Yes.
It's all budgeting. It's all spreadsheets. It's what do we
all
know
numbers,
works.
yes.
What do we know is going to make the
risk?
Yeah. That's why I'm starting to enjoy Netflix and Amazon Prime, because they put out more edgier things.
Yeah.
That are different, you know, rather than the old bland churning and burning of Hollywood.
Sometimes it shows that like it's different and not well received. There's been a lot of those on Netflix, but then there's some like standouts that are really wonderful. So.
Right, exactly.
And then Netflix makes some weird decisions though. Like a show will come out, get a great first season, and then disappear forever.
Yes. So many times.
Well, it could have had a great first season, but nobody watched it during the season, during the first few days.
The problem with streaming is it's a la carte. It's when you have the time to, and a lot of people will wait until their schedule opens up so they can binge that whole season in a weekend or whatever.
Right.
It's not the same as, you know, the old Nielsen ratings where when it came out that night, that's what we're measuring off of.
Yeah.
So they have to change the way they take their metrics because, you know, it might take me a couple of months to get to a show because I just don't have the time to invest in it.
Right.
And when I get to it, I want to be able to watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Because we've gotten to the I want it now instead of, you know, most of
the blame for that though.
I want it now instead of letting week to week to build the anticipation.
It's so weird. Like we grew up with that, you know, having to wait for the next episode,
and having to wait for the commercials instead of fast forwarding.
And now we're like, damn it, I need it all now.
So funny because, you know, like HBO Max still does that model with their shows. And I was thinking about this just the other day because I've been watching White Lotus. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but it is a wonderful show. If you haven't seen it and you have HBO Max, highly recommend. But it only is one episode at a time. And I was so frustrated because the new season came out. And I was like ready to watch it, ready to binge the whole thing. There was one episode. And I was like, why? But it's, you know, it's definitely like that I want it now mentality is just pervasive. It's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we used to hate commercials, but in our time, that was the time you had to run to the bathroom. You had to go to food and all of that. And somebody would yell, it's back on! And you'd run back.
Now it's like you blink and you haven't moved from your couch in 7 hours because it just keeps going.
Yes, exactly.
It does ask every 3 shows if you're still watching.
Yes, it does.
And then we feel judged. Yes, I'm still watching.
It's like cable now. If you're watching TV, like the football span on Sunday, halfway through, it's like, are you still watching? And if you don't catch it, it goes off on you. But
Oh,
yes,
they did this to us, and they should know that their metrics need to reflect that. It's never going to be, an opening night kind of thing. It's going to be when their schedule is allowing
yeah,
for them to do it.
exactly. Even network TV has gotten a little bit better with that. Because they know, okay, they're going to watch on the streaming the next day or whatever, because they offer it. So it's like, yeah, that all should count.
Yeah.
But for how long?
Right.
Like, for how long does it count?
It is
But-
disappointing, though, to see so many shows on Netflix do the one season run, have a lot of potential, and then just not get renewed.
Devastating.
Yeah.
But at least, like you said, though, they are looking at indies. They are looking at unique stories, different voices. They're giving a shot at seeing if those things can be profitable, whereas traditional Hollywood is still stuck on remakes and nostalgia plays and Hocus Pocus 2. That one just came out. That was a Disney.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a nostalgia play.
Okay.
It wasn't as horrible of a nostalgia play as other ones that I've seen, but you can definitely tell that's what they're doing. They're just banking on our love of the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm watching all this stuff and I'm like, all the movies and things. I'm like, no.
Well, it gets so tiring because you also feel like you're being pandered to. Like so often they're banking on like, oh, you loved this one, and now you're gonna keep watching. And I've, with a lot of stuff, have been just been like, I know that you're just doing this to get my money, and I feel like I feel it. It doesn't feel authentic.
I mean, you go back and you've got Star Wars, you've got Indiana Jones, you have, a whole bunch of other new on the edge things that they did.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any new on the edge things, I think, since Inception.
That Interstellar was pretty good.
I like Interstellar.
Mentioned in my book. It's reference. That's how it's so important to me. And like 16 or something. It's in my book.
So okay, but I can't think of anything stellar. I mean, Marvel movies is just a whole franchise of things.
Even they're at the churn and burn stage.
Yeah, and it's exactly. But that one was outside the box. Both of those were outside the box, and I liked that.
The Expanse, which was based off a book series, that was a great sci-fi television show. I loved what they did with it, and even that one struggled for a while and got ported over to different networks to be saved, and still didn't run the full series. I think it stopped after, was it 5 or 6? I can't remember now, but that one was a unique take on sci-fi, a more realistic version of our future. I liked that. I liked how they blended those sci-fi elements with some realism. And that one struggled for a bit too.
Yep. Yeah. So. But
we need more. We need more. Regine says old white men. Let me correct that. Old white men who wear socks with sandals decide what's good.
Yes, they shouldn't. They'll die off soon.
I think what we're all saying is that we're just so tired of old white men making all the decisions. Come on.
Exactly.
Yes.
What a good ending point for our show tonight.
Get edgy, people. Get edgy.
Try something new.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Well, before we go, since we are at the end of our hour here, Melissa, tell us when the book's coming out, where we can find it, and any place that we can find you online too.
Wonderful. So the book is coming out February the 22nd. So in a little less than 4 months now, I believe, if I'm doing that math correctly. You can pre-order it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And I also have a free prequel that's available when you join my newsletter. And that's also where I give all of the updates about what's going on with the book or events that I'm doing around it. So if you go to my website, you can join my newsletter, get the free prequel, and, just get excited for when it comes out on the 22nd. I have, as I mentioned, I'm on TikTok at Melissa E. Day and Instagram at Melissa E. Day. So it's all consistent and easy to find.
And we'll make sure your links are in the show notes below. So for anybody who's watching this after the fact, check the show notes and you'll be able to find her links as well. Jane, anything you've got coming before we go tonight?
Not that I can release yet because I don't have all the details, but I'm going to be in a fantasy set that Pack Magic will be in January, I believe it is. So I'm waiting for all the details.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
Yes. Yay.
Cool deal. All right. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been so much fun chatting with you, and we wish you luck with the new book. Definitely have to come back and tell us how the release goes next year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you.
And we are, I think, off for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be back in December.
Yes.
So for those, happy Thanksgiving for those of you who will be celebrating while we're off, and we will see you guys in December. Thanks again for hanging out.